Hey Reddit, just been dumped after 4 years and am pretty pleased with how it went. Got any good breaking up stories? I caught a high school girlfriend cheating on me and I was so hurt that I couldn't even confront her about it. I just knew that once I went down that road, I was going to unload on her and never stop. I called her to break it off and offered, "I just don't seem to make you happy anymore. It's time we moved on from each other." She countered with, "But I love you. Please don't do this." That was too much. You love me so much you couldn't keep your tongue out of another guy's mouth? You love me so much you couldn't keep from making out on the hood of his fucking car in the middle of a goddamn grocery store parking lot? You love me so much that you fuck him with the condoms I bought for us? There was an awkward silence followed by "I don't know you're talking about or who would tell you that." Oh please. Are you serious? That's going to be your defense? Did it really not occur to you that I might have to drive through town in which I caught her making deliveries? I fucking saw you in the parking lot. Then that next Monday, when I came over and told you I wasn't feeling great, that was so you wouldn't think something was up when I didn't want to fuck. When you went to get a drink, I opened your drawer and counted the condoms. Another awkward silence and she said, "I can't believe you'd do that, save it. You're a slut and I'm not taking self-righteous bullshit from you. We're done." I was dating a girl for 3+ years. I moved to another state, for work. She was finishing school and applying to a 4-year graduate school program. We were doing the long distance thing, but I was able to visit or fly her out every month or so. Things seemed good. She was waiting to hear back from several programs, and I told her I'd move to wherever she got into school. Went to another state with her to visit with her parents. Proposed, told her I'd move as soon as she knew. She said I need to think about it. I was a bit surprised, since we'd talked about marriage for 1 to 2 years. Next morning, I fly back to my state, she flies home to hers. I call a few times, no response. Third day, her roommate, who I knew really well, picks up and says sorry, she moved to Washington, D.C. What? I asked did she leave a forwarding number? Roommate, sorry, not for you. I'm really sorry. Click. Ouch. A year or so later, I got an email telling me she was really sorry and I deserved better, that she was in a weird place, blah, blah, blah. I dated a girl for 5 or 6 years during and after high school. I loved her, but she was really anxious to get married and I wasn't ready. We hadn't officially split up, but I suspected she was dating other people. Then one day, around Christmas time, I get a family newsletter via email from her mom. Normally I just deleted them, but for some reason I read this one. Towards the bottom, almost in a PS, it said that her daughter was doing well and was planning to get married in a month. WTF? Turns out she had gotten pregnant by some guy she worked with and her mom had forgotten that I was in the family distribution list. Seems almost trivial now, 10 years later, but this rocked my world for a really long time. If you have an epic comeback to getting dumped, you probably weren't that into the person in the first place. In my case, my epic comeback was just me screaming at her answering machine, "Call me back," over and over like a crazy person. I once had this relationship in grad school where I was really into the guy and had no idea the breakup was coming. He came over one day and we hung out. At the end of the day, he said we have to talk and we sat on the couch. He proceeded to tell me it's not you, it's me and my parents once broke up before getting married and got back together later blah blah blah. After his spiel, I asked him if there was anything else and he said, "Well, don't you want to talk?" My response, "No, I think you said everything you need to say. Obviously you don't want to be with me, and I don't want to be with someone who doesn't want to be with me." I then told him to wait a minute and got up to get everything he gave me, trinkets, flowers that I later dried, cards, pictures, etc., put it in a bag, and gave it to him. I told him if we were supposed to get back together, he could give it to me then. If not, I had no use for them. At the door, he asked me for a hug. I said no, that's not really appropriate anymore and let the door close in his face. After all that, I still withdrew from school for a quarter and battled a lot of shit, but at least I have my dignity to this day. Dumping by email is fucking lame. I broke up with my GF of 3 years face to face despite know that she was going to take it bad. That was one of the crappiest days of my life and I knew it would be. But I still took it on the chin because I knew it would be worse for her, and the least I could do was let her have the chance to have a go at me about it. It's about respect. You owe someone the respect of standing there and telling them it's over and why. So yeah mate, you didn't deserve that shit. To be fair, at least you found out what she's all about rather than in a few more years, eh? Consider it time saved in the long run. My epic comeback? GF of 5 years broke up with me. I started shagging a new chick within 2 weeks and ended up going out with her for almost a year. She was the best shag I've had to date. XGF went mental. My crazy ex-girlfriend cheated on me. She then tried to humiliate me in front of everyone. We were still in high school and she made a scene. I just looked at her with a smile while she was loud talking and things. And said something along the lines of, "You will never get a girl like me." I responded with, "Well, I know something you'll never get back though. Don't forget that I was the first in the front and back." Her jaw dropped, everyone was silent, and I popped up a cigarette and walked away. Yeah. Edit. She didn't come next day at school. Then I learned she dropped school. She still doesn't have her diploma. Just had to add that. I kind of feel like an ass about it. This was back in 2000. I was dating this girl we will call Jen. We had been dating for about a year and met through one of her sisters, one of 3 sisters, one who just last month married one of my best friends, who introduced me to her during a party. Now Jen lived out in Ohio and was planning on moving to PA to stay with her sisters/family in several months to find a job and go to school. So this several months went by. Even took a trip out to Ohio to see her BTW, and she moves here and we start seriously dating. I personally think everything is fine, but soon she starts getting into the bar scene and starts to worry more about what the nightly drink special is than going to school and finding a better job for herself. Not to mention the rumors I was hearing that she was getting rides from strange men from the bar. What, your fucking cell phone doesn't work to even call me for a ride in the case you're too drunk to drive? Now at first I wrote these things off as just rumors until I decided to play amateur sleuth and wait outside her fave bar. On a side note, I see all the time on TV these cops that go on stakeouts waiting for a suspect or just normal surveillance. But when you're the person having to do the stakeouts, they are fucking boring. IDK how they don't eat their gun, it's so mind-numbing. Anyway. So sometime later she leaves the bar with some dude who is like at least 15 years her senior and blows him in his truck. Now I could have just slammed my car into drive and crash into the truck and hopefully, she by accident, in her surprise bites his dick off. But I took the high road and simply drove off and went back to my place, gathered up all her stuff she had left in my place and dumped it on her lawn. It rained that night to my wonderful surprise. Then I fucked her younger single sister and made sure she found out about it. Turns out her sister was the better lay, who knew? Side note, Jen is now married back in Ohio to an ex-biker meth dealer/addict, now born again Christian. If I'm lying, I'm dying. I dated a girl for about a year. After moving in with her we started bickering more and more, and she started getting more nitpicky and controlling. Anyways, one night she was out drinking with her friends and had a little too much, so I had a pal of mine drive me to the bar so I could drive her home. When I showed up to the inn and asked her for the car keys, she flipped out. She ended up beating the shit out me, breaking my glasses and giving me a black eye, then drove home drunk. Well, the relationship really went downhill from there. After I finally broke up with her, she kidnapped my dog, but the police did nothing about pigs, so I got a lawyer and sued her, and got my dog back. She still goes around town trash talking me. I was with my ex for 7 years. I was always curious if she had been cheating on me. Turns out she was. We had moved into a house that her boss rented to us. Seeing as we had moved from a 1-bedroom apartment, I was able to occupy the basement with computers and gaming while she sat on the main floor watching TLC. We never saw each other, and so we decided to take a break and figure out if we should really be together. The only rule was don't bring anyone home. So 2 weeks after this went down, I woke up on a Friday night hearing strange noises from her room and realized she was humping someone in there. Instead of interrupting, I waited until they stopped and apparently fell asleep. Then I moved out, which was easy since 90% of my stuff was in the basement and they wouldn't hear me moving. She called me around noon that day and asked WTF was going on, and I told her I was done and to have a good life. She only made it a month in the house before moving to low-income housing and left her job shortly after that.